It's called game.
Okay, it's Recreate Play, the Cooldown Room, guys. Introductions to start off with. Part Depp, part Del Toro, all fear and loathing. Too weird to live, too rare to die. It's Ash.
What? Hello.
He knows when to hold 'em, when to fold 'em, when to walk away, and when to run. It's Chris. Flush, full house, three of a kind, straight. They're poker hands, but they're also his dating profile. It's Vinyl. Speaking of cards, red cards, green cards, race cards, I know them and I know how to play them. I'm Michael. It's the Pit Crew. Individually, we're 4 F1 fans. Together, we're 4 F1 fans. I'm going to throw it now to our host for the evening, Chris.
Alrighty, guys, let's break down the Vegas GP. Yeah, Merc 1-2. I don't think many of us saw that coming. Pretty special.
Yeah.
What do we think?
Yeah, very unexpected. I mean, we know Mercedes are very strong on these North American tracks, but in this cold weather, they were just something else, weren't they? I mean, clearly a half second faster on every lap. They dominated from start to finish all weekend. Mercedes were just slotted for this environment. It was incredible.
What do you reckon it was, Mike? Was it the tire switch on? Was it that the key?
I think so. I think the temperatures just really suited the tires. I think that's what the news around the paddock was. What do you think?
I mean, that can be the only explanation. I thought, I guess it was such unique conditions with it being really cold, and you saw Aston Martin being absolutely nowhere all weekend, and I think that was they couldn't switch on their tires. So it seemed to be that kind of battle.
Yeah.
What do you reckon, Ash?
Yeah, agree, man. That's what, like Mike said, the news around the paddock, Mercedes fires up in cold conditions better than everyone else, and they seem to have that trend. So, yeah, must be their suspension setup or something. Works for them. And, awesome charge by Lewis from the back of the top 10. That was, that cemented it.
Yeah, had he qualified better, I think he would have had the weekend. I think but Russell was well earned. Sorry, Chris.
Yeah, I agree, and I think I mean they had the fastest car, but credit to George and Lewis, like they both executed the perfect race. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And George executed the perfect weekend, but and Lewis managed to do it in the race, but should have been a 1-2. Always should have been a 1-2. Should have been an easy 1-2. But yeah, they did, really well, like really well. There would have been other teams that would have found themselves in the fastest car all of a sudden on a weekend as an outlier that wouldn't have been able to pull it off. But because it's Merc and they're pretty well drilled, like.
It'll be interesting to see how it backs up in very, very different environment when they hit, the Middle East now. How things flip around.
Yeah. Well, is Qatar a night race or coming up, or is it during the day?
Well, from memory, I think they pushed it back because it was record-breaking temps last year. They were all dying. Like they were saying it wasn't a race; it was just survival. We're just trying to get to the end.
Okay.
So I think they pushed it back to make it later, so it's cooler. But I don't think it's Vegas temps. I think it's
That's
like still like high teens to low 20s.
Cold desert nights.
Yeah, it was really cold in Vegas, wasn't it? It was freezing.
Yeah. And they should change the time, man. Yeah. Even for American view, I mean. I feel like it's a bit insulting, like when for the local viewers, the race is like super inconvenient and like you put it on in the home country at like midnight so that people across the other side of the world can enjoy it in the comfort of their lounge rooms when it's convenient for them. I feel like that's a bit arrogant. That's not a way to build fans around the world. It's like,
good point.
You want to race if Europe wants to race in Vegas, if F1 wants to race in Vegas, it should be, And obviously when the cars can do it, not in the middle of the day when it's stinking hot, but in the evening, but bring it forward a few hours, like make it in the evening, not
So
at like
how-
10 o'clock
So
when everyone's going to bed.
do you think it should be the best time for each track locally then? Is that what you mean?
Well, there's a lot to consider, including
Yeah.
local conditions, right?
Yeah.
So it's got to fit F1's parameters. F1 has a pretty small set of parameters that it
Yeah.
can run in.
Yeah.
But yeah, I reckon moving it forward a few hours would make it better for the cars because it wouldn't be so cold, and it'd make it better for the fans because it wouldn't be starting in the middle of the night. It'd be starting at a reasonable hour. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Locally,
Do you think there's anything got to do with logistics, like that they just can't block that area of Las Vegas during peak hour potentially?
yeah, but I think that's ridiculous because I mean, think of they go through it for months, like they block it for months for this and that. Moving it forward a few hours, I don't think that should be a game changer. Like, if it's gonna make the local community more excited about it because it's actually happening during like waking hours, then yeah, I think they should do it.
So do you think
Personally. I think the racing would be better too because I think the cars would be quicker.
in their best
It
slot?
wouldn't be as cold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Mercedes 1-2, do you reckon it's onwards and upwards from here, or do you think the other teams have sort of switched off at this point, or do you think this is a sign of things to come for Mercedes?
It's an outlier. It's an outlier.
Outlier. Yeah,
It's
track
the
specific.
only, it's the only really
McLaren's coming
cold.
back.
Only
Yeah.
really
They
cold
found the limit of
circuit.
the car was a 33.0. That was all the McLaren could do. It's coming back.
Yeah. True that.
No, it's an outlier for sure. It's really cold there. It's not going to be as cold anywhere else. So yeah.
Well, interesting result because especially for Hamilton, it's a bit of a happy ending for him for his farewell. I mean, he wanted to quit, and this is just coming out that he wanted to quit after Brazil. I know he was emotional at the time, but he was saying like, "That's it. Bring in Kimi. I'm done with this. I want to leave Mercedes after the Brazil race." Right? I thought he was just emotional, but he was seriously contemplating it, which is crazy.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, but I don't actually think it was a good result for Lewis. Like,
No.
He still got beaten by George, so it wasn't a good, it wasn't a happy weekend for Lewis. He was kicking himself. He was pissed off.
Yeah, right.
Like, yeah, it should have been me, not him. I'm
Yeah,
better
yeah.
than George. That's
He
what
beat
was
everyone
thinking,
but the
so-
one that he really wanted to beat, right? Like,
Exactly, the only one that mattered. So it was
Yeah.
good for Merc, but I think it was a terrible weekend for Lewis.
yeah.
Great weekend for Merc, great weekend for George.
Interesting.
Maybe he continued because he saw Ricardo loitering around the Mercedes thing going, oh, maybe I'll get a bit of a farewell and get a few last races.
Yeah.
Really?
Let's stay with Vegas then. So Max wraps up the championship. He did what he needed to do, I guess, to win the championship. He played it fairly safe and conservative. Yeah, so Max locks it up.
Yeah, he did what he needed to do.
Yeah.
What he needed to do. Drove like an experienced driver, Yeah.
Came in
Nice
fifth
drive.
behind the two Mercs and the two Ferraris. Just a tidy race to do what he needed to do, really. And then it's 4 for him.
4 in a row.
4 in a row. We'll talk
This thing, like,
more
it's-
about that in the hot lap, but yeah, quite an achievement. Yeah, sorry, Mike.
I was just going to say, like, it seemed like yesterday, 2021 was yesterday. Like,
I know how time flies.
it's happened so fast in succession.
Yeah.
Right.
So staying with Vegas, what other things did we want to touch on with Vegas? I guess in terms of the race itself.
Well, what about the Ferrari dramas?
Oh, dude, far out.
Oh, and Carlos.
Where do we start?
Ferrari, big Ferrari.
Well, all you got to say is Ferrari. Ferrari. Like
Ferrari
they create
did
these problems
Ferrari.
all the time, man. It's
Oh,
just Ferrari
man.
doing Ferrari.
Let's start at the top. Okay, first of all, the pit entry debacle that wasn't even penalized. What was that? Can we go through that? Oh my goodness. So
I
That's
couldn't
a
believe there was no
standard-
penalty. I couldn't believe there was no penalty for that.
Yeah,
But apparently, if the race director doesn't make a specific note at the start of the weekend saying that you can't cross the safety the pit lane line on that particular weekend,
I know.
then it's okay. There's nothing else that's
That,
within the
I
regulations.
know.
No
You
one
can't
even
cross the pit
complained.
lane entry line.
No one complained.
complained.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Total
No one
inconsistency.
go on the hotline and go, hey, what's going on here?
It was
Remember when Hamilton in
dangerous.
Austria?
Well,
He crossed the pit lane entry by like an inch. I think
Yeah.
Piastri called it, and he got the penalty.
yeah, I like it's just madness. It just shows you why F1 bureaucracy and the rule writing
Yeah.
needs like a total like when Liberty bought it, they should have said, "All right, let's rewrite the fucking rule book." Like, because
Yeah.
we gotta, it's just madness. They have different rules at different circuits. It's insanity. Like,
It was
F1 needs
dangerous.
to get
It
rid
was
of.
it was egregious. It was obvious. It was insane. I couldn't believe
Yeah.
that there wasn't
Wasn't
a
even
severe
noted.
penalty. It
Not
wasn't
even
even
noted.
noted.
It
I
was
don't
called
even.
a track limits. It was noted. It was noted. It was
Yeah.
a track limits violation. That's how it was regarded. He went off the track. That's
My
how it was
goodness.
treated by the stewards.
Yeah. And then that leads us on to, I guess, Leclerc's frustration with how things were handled on his end. What do we think of that? I mean,
I don't blame him. He's got to
Yeah.
be angry.
yeah.
I don't
Yeah,
blame
at the end
him,
of the
and I
day,
don't blame
yeah.
Carlos either. I can't
Once-
blame Ferrari.
Once
Same
again,
thing.
it's just a lack of communication and open discourse within the team, right? Like inconsistent messaging within the team, and it's just Ferrari doing Ferrari. Is it arrogance? Is it obliviousness? Like just not communicating with their drivers about procedure and process from the top.
I
Like,
don't think
what
that
is
was
it?
miscommunication.
Okay.
I think Carlos was told not to overtake,
Yeah.
and he was like, "Yeah, well." And Carlos, I do think honestly is a team player. He's like, "Well, what are we playing for? Only the
Yeah.
constructors. So if I overtake Charles, what's the difference? The team's not losing
Exactly.
out. I got nothing. I owe no loyalty to you guys. You guys shafted me 10 months ago.
Yeah.
So I'm racing for me, and I'm also not hurting the team by doing this.
Yeah.
So I think fair
point.
enough. And Ferrari created the problem when
Yeah.
you sack a strong, loyal driver before he's put his foot to the floor at the start of the season. You're asking for this trouble, and they're lucky that they had such a gentleman in Carlos that it came at the end of the season. That's my honest opinion.
What did you think of Charles sort of complaining about it and sooking about it? I didn't like this from Charles. I thought it was a bit lame. Like, what did he expect to have the position given back to him when, I don't like when drivers complain about not getting team orders.
Well, I think there was an agreement, and Carlos just went F that. So I think Charles has got a right to complain. If he's driving with that agreement in place that Carlos is not going to overtake him, but then he does, then yeah, you got a right to be pissed.
Yeah.
You're saving your tires and not racing aggressively, and you're not expecting an attack from your teammate when you're told that's not going to happen, and
Fair
then
point.
it does.
Fair point.
Yeah, you gotta be
I guess I just, if you want to beat
Like,
him, beat him. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, but
see it on
if you told
top.
him
You know where it's coming from.
then
You
you're
know where it's
racing
coming
different.
from. Charles
Yeah.
has PTSD from Russia against Vettel. Oh,
Oh, yes.
let him pass, and I'll get past. And Vettel does
That's
Vettel, and like,
it.
oh no,
Yeah.
let him
You're
pass.
exactly right,
You
Mike.
can
You're
pass
exactly
me
right.
if he's faster.
You're exactly right. This happens all the time. That's
This
what he
happens all the
said.
time.
This happens all the time. No, but I think they're both right. They're both right.
That's true. Yeah, they can both be right. Yeah.
It's Ferrari that created the situation, so they're the ones in the wrong, and they got to deal with it. But they're both right. And I think going forward, with 2 races to go, it's going to be fine because they've both agreed nothing to play for but the championship. So we're just racing for the championship.
I mean, Charles was like, I'm sick of being the gentleman. I'm sick of being the good guy. How's that going to play into next year when he's up against a real alpha dog in Lewis? How's that dynamic going to be? You know what I mean? When Lewis
I don't
isn't
think it's going to be like that. I don't think it's going to be like that. at
Yeah,
Ferrari.
how do you think it'll be?
Yeah. Wow, I think Charles used to being the alpha dog at Ferrari. He's like, man, these guys signed me on a world record length contract, like 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm the Ferrari guy. I am Ferrari. You're joining me for your little swan song. Like, I think that's how Charles is looking at
That's
it.
how Charles
I'm
will
sure
think. Yeah. Does that
but I
conflict with
think-
how Lewis will think about it though? I'm the 7-time world champion. That's
of
what
course
makes it
it does.
interesting, right?
That's why Ferrari are morons for doing this. I think it's going to be a nightmare. I think it's
Oh,
going to be a nightmare.
it'll be
I think it's going to
fascinating.
go really badly. I think
What
they're
if
crazy.
Ferrari
to
has
do
a
it.
championship-winning car in 2026? It's going to be on.
It's going to
gonna
be on.
Going to be on.
Yeah,
Beyond
well,
next year. Beyond it,
yeah, it won't be next year, that's for sure. But yeah, no, you're right. I mean, who knows what's going to happen? But yeah, I don't know. I don't know why Ferrari did that. I don't think it's a good idea.
Share price. That's what.
Yeah, but share price is goes up and down all the time, man. Like, fuck. Success is, quality, class.
They've got two very marketable drivers, if not the most marketable driver by getting Lewis. So that's
True.
a big boost to them.
Yeah, it's true.
That's their
True.
market. That's who they can sell it to.
Yeah.
Selling
Win on
Ferraris.
Sunday, sell on Monday. It might not apply, but it's still
They're selling them in China with Guan Yu Zhou being the reserve driver, man. That's who's really selling them.
Yeah, that's the other thing
That's
too.
exactly right, man. That's
The big
exactly
Chinese
right.
market.
How do you say Ferrari in Chinese, right? So onto Lando, I guess. We should talk about Lando, don't you think? Poor Lando, the dream comes to an end. He said himself, I was not ready for this F1 title battle. And it sort of seemed like that all along. It was one of those things where you wake up and you're in first and you're not really prepared to how to handle that race. And the team wasn't really ready all along, I think. I think they were pleasantly surprised, but surprised to be in this situation and weren't equipped, perhaps.
Yeah, they're not battle hardened like other teams are.
No.
I mean, Rebels battle hardened multiple years of fighting for a championship. This was the first year that McLaren had a shot.
Yeah.
But having said that, I think it's a good, I guess, practice for next year if the trend of the car being competitive keeps on going the way it's going, then it's a good lead-in for next year. It's good practice for them. They couldn't. I think they couldn't ask for a better way to find out their flaws and weaknesses when it comes to fighting for a full-out championship in the very beginning of the year. Then,
that.
A good start for them.
It's just because it's such a massive growth spurt. It's like the lanky teenager that has a massive growth spurt, and suddenly they're the alpha forward in basketball, something like that. And it's just like, wow, just thrust into the spotlight. So suddenly, mid-season, it was incredible their game.
Well, now he's learned how to lose a championship. Maybe this will definitely contribute to how he can approach this next season with a different expectation and mindset,
Yeah, I think it's important to remember that he hadn't won a Formula One race coming into this season. It seems like a long time ago, but he hadn't won a race, let alone a championship. So he's grown a lot. He's learnt probably more than anyone this year. Like even the inexperienced guys, he's probably learnt more than them this year. So I think next year will be a big year. The question is, are the McLaren mechanics and team going to go on holiday in the off season and take 6 months to get a car ready and at the front of the grid, or are they going to start from the front? If they start from the front, man, I think he'll be a world champion.
Well, the other question is, how will Oscar progress and develop and improve in the interim? The big challenge might come from within, and if he doesn't establish his own superiority within his own team, that challenge could come from within as well as from without. Right? I know Oscar doesn't want to play the nice guy next season.
No.
Oh, he won't. Doesn't have to.
No.
Shouldn't have to.
That'll be a fascinating race contest between the two of them. I can't wait for that. Yeah.
First race is the Australian GP, so Oscar will be fired up to win that one. So
that's
gets
right.
Front early, then he's got a lot of momentum behind him. So it'll be interesting to see who starts off strong next year.
Yeah.
Yeah, early momentum will be very important in those inter-team battles, like those close inter-team battles. So
yeah.
Just don't take the inside grass like Ricardo in a Renault. Blow up your car.
Speaking of grass,
smash it on the first lap.
Speaking of grass, did you hear about the weed smell in the paddock?
Oh, no? Great segue, Mike. Great segue. I did.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, all the
so
drivers were complaining.
you didn't hear about this, Mike?
A lot of weed.
No.
Okay,
No.
so weed is
Yeah.
legal in the state of Nevada.
Mhm.
So a lot of so everyone is just puffing on joints, I guess, and the drivers were complaining about the smell of weed permeating the entire paddock during the whole weekend. They could smell it from the cars.
Max even said he can smell it in the car.
Yeah,
Like, I don't know if that's true.
and
But
they were
that's
getting
really
fed
funny.
up with it. And like, you know, as anyone that's been in a Dutch oven knows, it can get kind of nauseating.
Yeah.
I'll defer to the more experienced guys in the pit
Mike
crew.
just pulling the trapdoor out from underneath.
Yeah, what do you guys think?
I
I've never
I
tried
don't
it
go in
myself.
them. I don't go in them. I just build them, so I wouldn't know what it's like being in one. But I would just say that. No, honestly, they were saying like if we do a drug test now, which are mandated, like they have to do them. Right? Like if we literally got randomly done before the race, they're like, there's no way we'd be legal. Like we'd
That's
definitely be done.
hilarious.
Imagine getting swab tests on the way to Qatar, all the luggage.
Oh my
So
god.
have you been around any substances at all recently? We're just going to swab you all of your luggage.
Imagine if the next race was Singapore. You'd have half of the paddock on death penalty. That would be hilarious. I know.
Motor getting done into the US, getting done out of the US.
That'll be fine. Weed doesn't take that long to get out of your system.
I wouldn't know. It's not
12
legal in
hours
Australia,
according to New
unfortunately.
South Wales Police.
Is there meant to
Oh,
stay in your
man.
hair? If it's in your hair, Ash, it might be a problem for you, mate.
Yeah, I think that's 30 days, but yeah. According to New South Wales Police, it's only 12 hours to 24 hours.
Ash is well versed on the legislature.
I ride a motorbike, Dan. I don't want to get booked. I can't lose my bike.
I used to ride a motorbike.
What's the next thing we were going to talk about? So Vegas's atmosphere, I guess, staying with Vegas, right?
Yeah,
Vegas
there was
atmosphere?
talk about that, but I did hear that on the Thursday and the Friday it was a much more low key.
Mm-mm.
I don't think it could be any more up key than like last year.
Mm-mm.
But apparently, ticket sales 5,000 different, 306,000 to 315,000.
Oh, okay.
So
Really?
they sold just as many tickets. Like, you know, maybe there were a few less celebs interested in their, you know, free whatever invite to go or whatever. I don't know, but yeah, the fans were there. There was the same amount of fans.
Yeah.
Which means it's not going to get any cheaper anytime soon because they're still filling it. Like it was still full.
They just
Were
didn't
they
do a
cheering
good
with their
job.
flags? I didn't notice any crowd presence from the broadcast.
Exactly.
Nah, but it's a street race and it's a tight street race. They're all like that. It's all tight walls and it's all. That's what
But
the one thing I hate about them.
Singapore's a
It's
street
all.
race too, and you get to see the crowd there, and you also get to see cars moving outside.
You don't see the crowd. You don't see the crowd.
But I agree with Ash. The
crowd?
atmosphere seems to be lacking somehow from the broadcast. It doesn't seem to be as connected. I don't know what that is. Maybe the
Maybe.
grandstands aren't as
Maybe
big
the
or
top down,
something.
Vegas City is like dead apart from the lights. Whereas if compared to Singapore, you're seeing the flyovers, you're seeing cars, outside traffic going. And
Yeah, but
cities like
Vegas
that,
is
city looks
nothing.
alive.
Yeah, but people aren't driving around Vegas. It's just a strip. It's just people walking. You can just walk from hotel to casino to. So it's not like Vegas is not like a. Vegas is just the strip. You know what I mean? Late at night,
Yeah.
it's just the strip, and that's where the race is. So there is no Vegas strip
I think
because the race is being run on it.
I think there can be some work done to connect the crowd to the race though somehow. You know, I don't know what it is, but there is a disconnect there between the vibe, you know what I mean? It doesn't feel...
Also, to go with that, the TV direction during the race itself, like missing out crucial periods, it was like, this is...
So many
there's
overtakes got
something done
missed.
with the whole of TV direction for Vegas.
Totally agree with that. It was atrocious. Yeah, the TV direction was.
Speaking of fans, I've got a little clip to share here, guys. Shall we have a look at this? People for standing still at any location around the track for loitering. But some clever fans were able to get the best seat in the house for free. So what they did is they got on this escalator and just looped around for the entire race. Look at these guys.
Awesome.
Yeah, legends.
How great is this? They just
And if you time it just right, you'd be able to follow your driver around the lap, right?
How fantastic
slow
is
enough
this?
down the bottom.
Look at this, just round and round. They watched the whole race, best seat in the house, didn't have to pay a thing, and security couldn't do a thing about it.
Yeah.
This is
Well, the other
great.
thing is the best overtaking point at the circuit. There's no grandstand. There's no room for it. There's no fans like at the end of the straight. So that's the thing about a street. It's kind of when you make a track fit a venue. You know what I mean? You don't make the venue fit the track, like you design it around the place, then I guess the fans miss out, right? Because the best overtaking corner, well, there's a hotel there. You can't put a grandstand there. Like, there's buildings there already. So, the best overtaking places, the fans don't actually see it live because there's no grandstand. They can't just put a grandstand there.
So let's just touch on the rest of the race before we move on. Up and down the results, we have Yuki finishing ahead of Sergio. So Yuki had a great weekend. Nico Hulkenberg had a great weekend. Any comments on those performances?
Yeah, well, Hulkenberg does Hulkenberg, and Yuki puts more pressure for that Red Bull seat, but I don't think he's in the running, regardless of where he finishes.
Yeah, for some
There's
reason.
that test at the end of the year, but I think that's just to appease Honda. And I sort of wonder why that's the case. Like a Red Bull trying to keep buddy-buddy with Honda in case their engine hookup with Ford doesn't work out. Because I'm struggling to understand that Yuki test at the end of the year.
I just think there's a bit of a glass ceiling for poor Yuki. I just don't think he can crack it. I don't think that seat's ever going to be available for him for some reason. From various reasons, you know? What do we think?
Yeah. Well, it's just worst case scenario for Red Bull, right? Like, they just want someone. They want, they want Checo to smash these guys. So we don't have to have this conversation. 2, they want Lawson to smash Yuki because he's the new guy they put their investment in. So then they would have to have this conversation. But now Yuki's popping up, so they're just like, fuck.
What do we do now?
What do we do now?
Checo can beat him sometimes. Sometimes Yuki can beat Lawson. Sometimes Lawson can beat Yuki. So it's just going to look like we're just making some weird call now. Yeah, it's hard for them. They put themselves in a hard position.
What do you reckon, Mike?
Yeah, like, are there any science rumors to Red Bull and have any credibility? I don't think so, right?
Well, he's doing the test, right? Isn't he doing the test at the end of the year?
Is he?
Apparently, Marco said that Perez will his fate's decided by the shareholders at the end of the year. So I don't know how much weight's got that behind that, but
everyone's.
Well, I heard,
but I mean, everyone's. We all know contracts mean nothing. Like, contracts just depends how much money you want to spend to break the contract, right? Like, that's the only consideration.
Well, I heard Fernando Alonso and his representatives have been sniffing around that Red Bull seat, which I know it's unlikely. Just for hypothetical, imagine that. Imagine Fernando and Max. It'll never happen. But imagine that those two in Red Bull up against Lewis and Charles in Ferrari. That's the stuff dreams made up of.
Exactly. That'd be epic.
I agree.
There's 2 guys who just love driving, just like Max and Alonso, man.
Yeah,
like,
dude. I would love to
like,
say
building their whole life around driving.
Should we just start this race in wets just for a laugh and see what happens?
Just start at the back of the grid and just see who has the most fun and the most overtakes. Those two in the same team would be the most entertaining thing I could imagine, I reckon. What else happened in the race, guys? We got Albon with the DNF, Gasly with the DNF, Bottas at the back.
I saw a really interesting on Gasly.
Sorry?
I saw a really interesting thing on Gasly, like on YouTube, and they were tracing like the engine RPM of the
361.
Yeah, and apparently he got like some mega tow with DRS.
Oh, he
Mm.
over
357 kilometers an hour, engine like max revs when it just went kaboom.
Oh,
Wow.
Yeah, I saw
Yeah.
the same thing. I saw 361, but yeah, I saw the same thing.
Yeah, something like that. It was something
Yeah,
insane. Yeah.
yeah,
Like
That's
but
DRS
ridiculous.
plus plus. And then the
Yeah.
Renault engine cried no more.
that's a mess
And
up.
yeah, Flavio signed one of the Conrods and it blew up, you know.
Well, yeah,
Wow.
that's pretty bad, man. Usually think they'd have all that done beforehand, working out their gear ratios for over revving and drafting, but I
But I
guess
think they
Yeah.
were saying the gear ratios are fixed or something, so they couldn't play with them or something
Oh,
like that.
really? Oh, that's right. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
the gearbox ratios are fixed.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's interesting.
Man,
Yeah.
it was funny on the F1 on the highlight package the F1 put up, like because it's all condensed. They
Mm.
like played the audio of Gasly, like no power, no power, and then the next shot is him with the blue, like the blue smoke coming out the back, and then the team radio. No, everything's fine. We see no problem. You're at maximum revs. I was like, oh god, this is not good
Oh
for the
my
boys at
God.
Vichy.
Alpine
Yeah.
sounds like Ferrari.
Yeah.
Uh,
No, you're at
yeah.
maximum revs.
It was
Fine.
good.
Telemetry is good.
That's crazy.
What are Renault going to do with an F1 engine factory that's no longer used as an F1 engine factory? Like, what could you even do there in Viri?
Mm.
I don't know, man.
Oh, let's look at our predictions, guys.
Okay.
So Ash,
Let's
I'm
not.
worried.
Let's
I'm
not.
worried.
Ash, you had Leclerc, Norris, and Max.
Oh, no, did I?
Yes, you did.
Okay, I'm looking at something else. Okay.
So you
Yeah,
had
yeah, sorry.
Leclerc 1, 2, 3. I had Max, then Oscar, then George. So, Chris, you had Leclerc, then Max, then Oscar. Vinyl, you had Charles, then Carlos, then Lando. So none of us get any points.
Oh, you got a point. You got
I got a
George,
point.
right?
I got George on the
George.
podium.
Well, I think George and I think Mike had 2 on the podium, didn't he? Who did Mike have?
I had
Carlos.
Vinyl, sorry.
Vinyl
Yeah,
had
Carlos.
Charles,
Oh,
Carlos,
yeah.
and Lando.
Yeah.
So the
Okay.
both of us. So
yeah.
the both of us had one.
You
person
guys
on
are the
podium.
closest.
That's
Yeah.
terrible. We suck. But no one saw this one coming, so that's my excuse.
Well, it was an outlier. It's an
It was
outlier.
an outlier.
I'm sticking by it. I'm sticking by that.
Yeah.
I'll remember this for next year, but
Yeah.
just put up Mercedes.
Antonelli, Vegas
I'll
next
put
year.
mine
I'm putting
down,
money on
yeah.
it. I'm putting money on it.
All right.
George Antonelli.
So we've got a few minutes before we wrap up our cooldown ep. Let's just discuss Max, I guess. 4 in a row. More to come,
Yeah,
If you want.
if you want. Mike?
best driver in F1.
Yeah. It's going to be simply lovely for a while, I reckon.
Yeah. Okay, so he joins an illustrious group. He's got Schumacher, he's got Vettel, he's got Hamilton, he's got Fangio, he's got Prost. I
Yeah.
think is that it? So he joins anyone else that we can think of? I think that's
I
it.
think you got to.
Yeah, so where does he rank among those guys?
Oh.
I want an answer.
he's-
Quick answer from each of you.
No, he's not done, man. It's like
Okay.
asking
I know.
Schumacher halfway through
I'm
his
asking
career,
anyway.
so-
I'm asking anyway. Where does he rank now amongst those? Mike?
Question mark.
Mike?
I don't know. Like I know he battled hard for all of his for a few of his championships, but like, yeah, I don't know. Like modern F1 just seems too easy compared to some of those drivers who used to have to like physically battle away, their right hand raw from having to change gears at Monaco 300 million times with a H-pattern gearbox and stuff like that. So I don't know, like,
Yeah.
it's super impressive, but I don't know.
I know those 4 championships.
Gladiatorial.
They're 4 championships, but they haven't come with much obstacles. He hasn't had much of an in-house competition, and they've
That's
come
not fair.
super smooth.
That's not
Well,
fair.
that's my point, though. You know what I mean? And
In-house,
I'd love the counterpoint to it. So I would.
Nobody
Chris,
can take Lewis.
Can I finish my point, Chris?
Yeah, of course.
Thank you. So, like, my point is just that as impressive as it is, I can't rank it above Prost's 4 or Fangio's 4. So I would put him in those in you know historically I'd put him just a parallel to Vettel. That's my point. That's my argument. So how about you guys? Where do you put him historically at this point?
I disagree with the Prost thing, but yeah, the other ones are, yeah, I'm with you on that.
So where does he rank?
Where's he
Historically.
rank? Yeah, it's like Vinyl said, man, it's hard, it's different eras, but he's up there. Like I would, unpopular opinion, but I would rate him better than Lewis at his prime. So I'll say he's better.
I mean, there's greatness and there's, you know, how good you are, right? So in terms of what is achieved, obviously there's a lot more to come. But in terms of his peak, that's my question, just for hypotheticals.
Yeah.
What do you reckon,
Like
Chris?
I rate him ahead of Vettel.
Yeah,
Oh,
His
Vettel's
peak's undefined. Where is his peak?
Yeah,
Who knows
well,
where his peak is?
that's what we're
Nobody
discussing.
knows.
That's what we're discussing, Chris. That's the point of
Yeah,
the show.
well, I think we haven't seen it, and I don't think when he gets there, he'll probably quit and do something else. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think he's gonna be the most race winning, most championship winning, but I think he'll still be probably the fastest ever. But I still think he'll probably, in my opinion, I think he'll quit the fastest guy ever. But he won't stick around for as long as anyone else. As long as Lewis or Michael.
I still think he's got quite a
part of
few
it.
championships left, though. Yeah, it's an impressive run for sure.
Yeah, and they're all just opinions. Who knows, man? Who knows?
Yeah,
Brazil
That's what we're here
2024
for.
could have been the peak, man. It could have been the peak.
yeah, it could be. I mean, we thought that a lot more was going to come from Vettel, right? And then it just stopped. I mean,
That's
people were talking about him being the greatest of all time, and then Lewis comes along.
I don't think Max is like Vettel. I think Max is like, you know, he's adaptable. I think he can take on any car. So
Yeah,
that's yet to be seen. But I mean, if he gets jack of Red Bull and gets to Mercedes or someone else, then who knows?
Yeah.
It's just that luck of the luck of being in the right car at the right time, and that's something that Lewis had done really well. Like he was always really good with jumping just at the right moment. So
that's true.
that could be good if that'll be amazing if that happens to be the case when he moves to Ferrari and all of a sudden Ferrari are like numero and gives us a couple of years of dominance like they did, like Mercedes did. So
Yeah,
it'll be interesting to see.
All right, guys. Sorry to cut you off, Ash. We're going to wrap it up there for our Cooldown Room episode, guys. Thank you. It's the Pit Crew, Recreate Play, Cooldown Room, Vegas. We will catch you guys soon. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.